WrestleMania Night 2, well, WrestleMania 41 Night 2, April the 20th. Happy Easter to all of you who celebrate. We're going to talk about the show, and it was infinitely better than Night 1. However, it kind of went off the rails in the second half. The energy stayed up the entire night this time, unlike Night 1, where the energy tapered off as the night went on and peaked at the main event. The energy for everything on this show was about the same. They did the surprise gimmick twice. These, who will it be? And, so we're going to talk about all that stuff. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin crashed an ATV and a woman took a bump, even though she wasn't touched. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about this main event here first. John Cena wins number 17. He defeats Cody Rhodes in the WWE Championship match. Cody Rhodes has an entrance with motocross bikes, and all they did was crisscross the stage. And then he came out in an absolutely goofy Skeletor helmet. I didn't get it. I don't understand. I know he wore that stupid helmet before, but it was dumb. John Cena's entrance was just all black with the words John Cena in white. And that was it. And he was very grumpy. Grumpy John. The match itself was fairly slow-paced as Cena was working like 1998 Kevin Nash. And literally, he was doing big boots. He did a side slam. He hit his finish a couple of times. He was basically sleepwalking through this match. It had some intensity, but not a lot. Cena didn't really get his blood pressure up too much. They did a lot of finisher spamming. A lot of FUs being thrown. Cena was working like a traditional heel, like a real throwback heel. I think that's what he was reaching for, rolling out of the ring and various stuff like this. So it was kind of mid, if we're being honest. Cena didn't put forth 100% effort because really he can't. He was doing the 5 moves of doom, the shoulder blocks into the 5-knuckle shuffle, but he did it in slow motion to the point where Cody had to fire up and cut him off. There was an FU, or what they call an attitude adjustment. Might as well go back to calling it an FU. And Cody Rhodes kicked out of it. Then he did an avalanche FU. Cody Rhodes kicked out of that as well. Cody Rhodes also countered a flying leg drop, which I hate that move. I always hated that John Cena did that. From a STFU, or an STF, Cody Rhodes kicked John Cena, who bumped the referee and knocked the referee down. This led to John Cena exposing the turnbuckle. He slammed Cody Rhodes' head into the turnbuckle and then hit him with an FU. Cody Rhodes kicked out. Then the referee got bumped again, and Travis Scott appeared. He saunters to the ring with absolutely... he was aura farming the entire time. He didn't rush to the ring. There was no sense of emergency. There was no, let me get this in real quick. Like thieves are supposed to. Like, bad guys are supposed to. They're supposed to run in there, and do as much damage as they can and get out. He took his sweet ass time getting to the ring. He had a belt and everything. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Him and John Cena decided they were going to double team Cody Rhodes. I'm like, okay. Cody Rhodes frees himself. Travis Scott escapes. Cody Rhodes hits a crossroads on Cena. 1, 2. Travis Scott snatches the referee from the ring. Okay. Then Travis Scott gets in the ring because he was challenged by Cody Rhodes to. He throws a punch. Cody catches it, gives him the crossroads. He's out. Cody Rhodes dumps him on the floor. At this point, John Cena has the championship. He's going to hit Cody Rhodes with the belt. It all sounds a lot more exciting than it really was. Cody Rhodes catches the belt, snatches it from John. John then begs off. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Don't hit me with the belt. I'm so sorry. Cody Rhodes is torn for a little bit. Then he decides not to do it. John Cena kicks him in the balls, then hits Cody Rhodes with the belt, and then pins him, and that's it. John Cena wins. Yay. Look, I'm 100% fine with heel Cena being the champion, that was obvious. I'm 100% fine with the way the finish was put together. Okay, there's certain elements of it I would have liked change. Like if he'd have put him in the STF or something like that and the referee would have stopped it. There's something like that. Just a little something extra rather than him just getting hit with the belt. But you also had this one huge 6'5" problem. Where the fuck was The Rock? Why is The Rock starting storylines and then not participating in them? Look, I understand. I 100%. John Cena is a star. He can carry this story by himself. But why was The Rock introduced into this story if The Rock is not going to help further the story? I'm sorry. Travis Scott was introduced into the story literally for no reason. And he actually shows up at WrestleMania. He gets a full entrance and everything. Gets to walk down the ramp. He got to take a move, which I guess was supposed to be his receipt, which of course it's not because the Crossroads is a very safe move. So I guess Cody just will have to put that one back in his back pocket. And The Rock is nowhere to be found. So like, I didn't like it. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I didn't like it. Everything that happened felt like it was too dramatic. It was too theater. I'm tired of... This is the third year in a row that the WrestleMania main event has been hijacked by random music playing in the middle of the match, and everything freezes and stops so somebody can make an entrance. Last year, it was a parade of entrances. The year before that, there was also a parade of run-ins. I mean, there wasn't a lot of music playing, but it was a parade of run-ins in 39 as well. So you had 39, 40, and 41 had a bunch of run-ins when it comes to the main event of WrestleMania. Now, there was some interference in 38 as well, but at least it made sense because it was the bloodline. It was a faction. When you're dealing with a faction, there's going to be a bunch of run-ins. That's just a sensible way to book things. Here, there is no faction. It's just John Cena. And then Travis Scott, who didn't even lay a hand on Cody Rhodes. He just distracted him. And then the distraction of Travis Scott still didn't mean anything because you could have had the exact same finish with John Cena testing Cody Rhodes' character, which is, when Cody Rhodes took the belt, that was a test of his character. It was John Cena saying, hey, you got to make a decision. How badly do you want to be champion? Do you want to be champion or do you want to be a role model? And Cody Rhodes decided he wanted to be a role model, so he didn't hit him with the belt. Okay, Cena took advantage of that, which is perfect heel stuff. If the heel says, what do you want to do? You want to win, or you wanted to lose honorably? And Cody Rhodes decided he'd rather lose honorably. If he was going to lose at all, of course, he had faith in himself that he was going to win. And sometimes people say, look, if you're a babyface and you're in that position, you're an absolute geek. You're an idiot. I remember when this happened to Bayley. I think Bayley was a babyface. She was in a match with Alexa Bliss. And I think it was like a Singapore cane match or something like that. And Bayley's character refused to use the Singapore cane. She threw it down or something like that. And then Alexa Bliss just picked it up, hit her with it, and won. And everybody just walked away like, hey, you're a fool. Why would you do that? But it's supposed to be that sometimes being a good person doesn't equate to winning. Sometimes you having integrity, sometimes you being a person of good character means that you come up short, And in life, that's a real situation. In story, it can be a real situation too, and you have to overcome it. But you have to realize that wrestling is a morality tale. And because wrestling is a morality tale, telling you that sometimes the good guys are willing to cheat and take advantages that you're not willing to take, and they end up temporarily succeeding, well, that's part of the morality tale. Villains are always willing to cut corners. Villains are always willing to take the step that the heroes are not willing to take. And that's where their success comes from. But if you're truly a supporter of heroism, especially in entertainment media, then you don't want your heroes to take shortcuts, at least not unnecessarily, and you don't want your heroes cheating. And for kids, they see John Cena cheating. That's what they're looking at. And this is something that is out of the ordinary. And that's part of the story here, is that you're watching this whole new John Cena. You know, as he works a slower paced style, a style more reminiscent of 1999 Kevin Nash or Hulk Hogan in the late stages of his career. So is it really a John Cena story or is it a Cody Rhodes story? I guess it's kind of both, because in your morality tale, it's both. Yes, we're deeply rooted in John Cena's last year as champion. Now we open up the floodgates. Is John Cena going to leave with the title? Is he going to show up with it and defend it? What is he going to do? That's going to be interesting going forward. And how is Cody Rhodes going to rebuild himself? How is Cody Rhodes going to get the fans behind him? And the fans did boo him on this show, so he did exactly the right thing in staying down and not winning the match. But I'm interested, but I didn't care for the match because I didn't care for the run-in. If the run-in had not happened, it still would not have been some kind of all-time classic in the ring, but it would have been better. You know, and the story would have probably flowed better. But when you have time to pause everything because this guy wants to walk to the ring, when you introduce characters that don't show up later, like The Rock, I mean, look, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Elimination Chamber is what, February the 1st, I think? That was 2 months ago. We don't know why John Cena has decided to partner up with The Rock. We don't know what John Cena's relationship is to Travis Scott. Why does he care whether John Cena wins the title or not? You know, hell, Travis Scott doesn't even appear to talk on this show. You know, like, it'd been one thing if, you know, him and The Rock are business partners or blah, 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 or something. He's just a hanger-on. He's just there. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's him. He's doing a thing. And I'm like, why is he doing the thing? Why is he a heel? Why is he on the show at all? Like, he was there as a tag-along with The Rock. But now The Rock doesn't even show up, so why is he there? And yes, John Cena is a big enough star that he can carry this thing by himself. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. But I guess they're pivoting. It sounds like Triple H found his pivot foot, and we're not doing whatever The Rock had planned. We're doing whatever Cena has planned to do, or Triple H is taking more control over this thing, one or the other. But I can tell you this. The John Cena heel turn was saved by him winning the title, because now he's given more time to open up and do things. But it hasn't been great. It has not been great. And The Rock's involvement in this has been abysmal. It really is frustrating, especially as somebody who watches the show weekly. Extremely frustrating that you have all these video packages with The Rock in it, and you see this alliance between The Rock and John Cena, and then nothing follows up with that. It's ridiculous. And somebody's got to explain why The Rock was involved with this, and he's not going to continue being involved with it, and what The Rock is getting out of this. Somebody's got to explain something, but it ain't going to be no time soon. I give the match a just below passing grade. The action was fine. The story was good. The interference was whack. And I didn't like the finish. So it gets a below passing grade. Now, Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to do the attendance for the show. And he was speeding on his ATV. He did a loop around the ring. And then on the final loop, he crashed into the barricade. Then a woman fell down as if she was hit by the barricade or hit by Stone Cold Steve Austin's ATV. So we don't know what happened to this woman. I thought maybe Stone Cold himself had hit her. Like, it was 100% obvious that she didn't get run over by the ATV, because she would have had to literally been in the way which means she would have had to been on the other side of the barricade. And that wasn't the case. I don't think she was even touching the barricade, and the barricade didn't move and knock her over either. So she just got, I guess, surprised or shocked and just fell out. Nick Khan was out there trying to prevent a lawsuit, which there probably will be, but it's on video that she was not touched. So I guess it's going to be like emotional damage. You know, she suffered some kind of emotional damage. And she just fainted, basically. Give her a free ticket to next year's WrestleMania. Make her pay for her own flight, I guess. But it's fairly obvious that the woman wasn't touched. I mean, you could just look at the damn thing and see. Austin was having a lot of fun. Hopefully he wasn't drunk, because that could be problematic. But she wasn't touched by the ATV at all, so she was just being dramatic as hell. And I hate that for the company, especially their biggest show of the year. One of the talking points coming out of it is a fan collapsed because Stone Cold Steve Austin crashed his ATV in front of her. Nobody else was injured, by the way. Nobody else fell out. And you would think that if he ran over the barricade or something like that, there'd have been multiple people injured. But it was just one woman who passed out. So I don't know what's going on. We'll follow the story as it proceeds. The match before the main event was the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are defeated by Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. And there is almost no word about Bayley at all. It was just, well, Bayley was taken out of the match. She's not medically cleared. Who is the next person going to be? And that was it. There was no video of Bayley being attacked or nothing dramatic. Just nothing happened. It was announced at a backstage thing that Bayley wasn't going to be there. And then, of course, all this outpouring of sympathy. You got Sasha Banks on Twitter telling Bayley to come over to AEW, indirectly, of course. All the fans saying that Bayley was screwed out of her WrestleMania moment and how unfair this is. And Bayley's the only horsewoman that doesn't have a huge ego. Yada, yada, yada. I've been saying for weeks now, Bayley had no business being in this match. She had no business being in this match. The only reason they booked this match is to give her something to do. In reality, it should have been Lyra Valkyria in a singles match or Lyra Valkyria watching from the crowd. One or the other. Alright? So no, I don't have any sympathy for Bayley. She was taken out of the match. So what? She was replaced. It happens sometimes. Is Bayley's career over because she got taken out of the match? No. I can tell you this. She was taken out of the match and she was probably promised something else because Triple H likes Bayley. He loves the horsewomen. So it's not like it's a Vince thing where he's just bumping her because he doesn't like her. Trust me, Triple H has no hard feelings at all towards Bayley. This was probably just a business decision. Likely because it makes more sense for it to be Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, which they explained on commentary. That Liv Morgan was Becky Lynch's last opponent. And she's been bragging that she ended Becky Lynch's career. And Becky Lynch has been the sort of mentor, quote unquote, to Lyra Valkyria. Remember, she was one of the people who brought Lyra Valkyria up to Monday Night Raw, had teamed with her before. She even lost the NXT title to Lyra Valkyria. So the two characters are connected in a sense. So it made sense that if you're going to write Bayley out of the story, that you would bring Becky Lynch in. Now, obviously, you got to do something to get Bayley back into the story, or you could just do what they did with Lita. Remember when they wrote Lita out of the story and they never went back to it? It was like Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch were the tag team champions when it was really like Becky Lynch and Lita. And then Lita went down, never to be seen again. We still haven't seen Lita since then. She's been gone the entire time. It's been 2 or 3 years now. And it ended up with Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch having matches against each other. And no Lita. Lita was not seen or heard from ever again. So it could be a situation like that where we all just forget that Lyra Valkyria and Bayley were supposed to be the number one contenders, and Bayley goes off and does something else. I do feel bad for Bayley for one reason, though. This is the second storyline that she's had that has been aborted. Remember, she was doing something with Roxanne Perez on NXT, and then that was dropped, and that put Roxanne Perez in a tailspin that led her to being on the pre-show of Stand and Deliver because she was working with Bayley. She even got brought up to Raw to work with Bayley, and then it was dropped out of nowhere. And Bayley was put with Lyra Valkyria chasing the Intercontinental title, and then they decided they weren't going to take that belt off of her, and then they decided to put Bayley in a tag team with Lyra Valkyria, and then they decided to take Bayley out of the tag team. I mean, this is just insane schizo levels of booking. And if you know who was involved, I'm not going to say what crazy perverted octogenarian. If he was involved with this, that's all you would hear. I don't need to say his name. If Vince had booked this, everybody would be mad, right? But it's Triple H, so nobody's going to say anything. Let's be honest, though. I see this working only one way. Bayley, because we could say Bayley faked it, and she's not really injured. She just didn't want a team with Lyra Valkyria. Or it could be that Becky Lynch really attacked Bayley, but they just did that story with Naomi, so you can't do the same thing again so close together. That it really was Liv and Raquel who attacked Bayley. Then Liv and Raquel need to add a third member to their team for a trio situation. There's some ways you can go with this, but I ain't losing no sleep over Bayley not being in this match. All the people who are giving Becky Lynch a hard time, again, we don't know how she managed to get put in this situation. Was it the 11th hour she got a phone call and they say, hey, we want to make a switch. We're going to take Bayley out and put you in. Are you with it? And she was like, okay, I guess. And that was it. There's a lot of accounts that are floating around saying that Becky Lynch was sitting out WrestleMania because she didn't agree with any of the creative ideas. There was people saying that, she was just retired. They were waiting for the appropriate vehicle. All these sorts of things. By vehicle, I mean program. And by program, I mean storyline. When these people are trying to put everything together. And then we don't know what other issues there could have been. Maybe the plan was to switch out Bayley the entire time because she was just a fill-in until Becky Lynch was free. We don't know. Right? So I don't want to give Becky Lynch too much heat until we find out more information. But boy, oh boy, ain't that top shelf politicking. Hey, let me get that WrestleMania spot. But it's Bayley's WrestleMania spot. What do you mean? Give me that spot. And she gave it to her. Let's get into the match finally. So Lyra Valkyria is introduced. She's got wings. Beautiful gold wings. Very on the nose for a bird lady. But no special entrances for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And no special entrance for Becky Lynch either. They botched the very first spot of the match. Raquel and Becky. They get in the ring. I don't know what Raquel was trying to do, but Becky was supposed to go behind her, and they end up falling over, and Becky just grabbed a sleeper. And then we went to work from there. The match was okay. It was nothing great about it. There was nothing terrible about it. Lyra Valkyria hits a tornado DDT out of a tope suicida. So she jumps between the ropes, grabs Raquel by the head, and hits a DDT. Also, Becky did a Molly go-round on Raquel Rodriguez. Was pretty cool. But in the big finish was Becky Lynch hitting the manhandle slam on Liv Morgan and getting the pin. So she got some level of revenge on Liv Morgan for screwing her in her final match on Raw, which I think was a cage match or something like that. So she got some level of revenge. Lyra Valkyria has 2 championships, and I'm pretty sure we know what is about to happen now, is that more than likely she's about to cough up that IC championship. The question now is, does Liv Morgan get it, or does Bayley get it? Now, if Bayley gets it, then that was the bargain that was struck here, is that Becky Lynch would take Bayley's spot, and Bayley would then take Lyra's belt. And that seems to be, I guess, a fair trade. Well, it's a WrestleMania spot, so I don't know. But if Bayley gets a solid run with the IC title, that could be a fair trade. If Liv Morgan is going to win it, then it's still a fair trade. Because, I mean, she lost her tag team title, but she gets the Intercontinental Championship, and she gets to be a singles act again. But if the feud is going to continue, meaning Liv and Raquel versus Lyra and Becky, then you still got to get that Intercontinental title off of Lyra, and it can still go to Bayley. So there's some things that you could do there that opens up possibilities now that Lyra has 2 belts, which is crazy because nobody remembers what her voice sounds like, and she's barely over. And now she's a double champion on the main roster of WWE. This is a woman who has 1 championship defense, and she's been champion for almost 4 months. And it's been 3 months and some change. And she's had like 1 or 2 title defenses the entire time. And now she's a double champion. Amazing what you can do without putting forth any effort. But because you got a famous friend, it all works out for you. I don't know, outside of being countrymen, I don't know what the deal is between Lyra and Becky. But it's an interesting thing that Becky is really making sure Lyra Valkyria gets a fair shake in WWE. Even going so far as to put her over personally if she has to. And look, everybody's got to do this. Everybody's got a little buddy in wrestling. I'm not going to, berate Becky too much for what she's doing. I mean, Al Snow was Mankind's little buddy. And a lot of Al Snow's career success in WWF had a lot to do with him being friends with Mick Foley. And, these things happen. The little buddy, Bruce the Barbie Beefcake, was in the shadow of Hulk Hogan, but had a solid career of his own. Basically because Hulk Hogan made sure that was the case. So, I mean, maybe Lyra Valkyria is going to end up like that. Maybe she's going to end up being the Sean Waltman to Becky Lynch. She's going to end up being the Just Incredible to Becky Lynch, I don't know, man. Whatever. Next, Logan Paul defeats AJ Styles. The internet has a meltdown over this. A lot of people on the internet very upset that Logan Paul defeated AJ Styles. I was concerned by it, but in story it makes sense. So Logan Paul has a special entrance because it's just basically his entrance from all different angles. There's like a drone following him around or whatever. It wasn't nothing too special. It wasn't like a super big deal. Now the match itself was okay. I still think the Shane McMahon match is the best match AJ Styles had. This match didn't find a second gear. It was a very solid first gear match. And a lot of this is because AJ probably can't ramp it up like he used to. But he did do some good stuff in here. I just think that people's expectations of AJ Styles is based off of AJ Styles from 10 years ago. Like, AJ Styles and John Cena are old men. Just realize that. And realize it and accept it. Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and John Cena are old men. Each one of those men are up of 45 years old. They're not in their physical primes anymore. They can't give you the matches that you are looking for. They just can't. Physically, they're not able to do it. AJ Styles can move better than me, and I'm 41. But my God, you compare him to what? Logan Paul's like 28 or something like that? No, he's just not going to be able to do it, okay? But there was basically kind of a little bit of an exchange of moves here. Logan Paul basically practiced his entire moveset on AJ Styles. There was a lion salt, which I'm telling you was legit one of the best lion salts ever. Because how far Logan Paul was able to shoot himself across the ring. Logan Paul hit a Styles Clash, which AJ Styles no-sold to hit a Styles Clash of his own. That was great. And the match was doing pretty well. And then Jeff appears. Who the fuck is Jeff? Jeff, he's the guy who carries Logan Paul's brass knucks. It's Jeff. Like, who the fuck is Jeff? Who is Jeff? I don't know. Why is Jeff here? Oh, Jeff is here, and now here comes Karrion Kross. All right, he's been involved with this story all this time. He takes the brass knuckles away from Jeff, and now he gets to have a conversation mid-match, by the way, with AJ Styles, wanting AJ Styles to hit Logan Paul with the brass knuckles for the boys. And AJ Styles instead punches Karrion Kross in the head. He gets in the ring. There's a punch to the face, pulverizer. Logan Paul pins AJ Styles. Similar situation that happened in the main event, where AJ Styles was given an opportunity to cheat, and he refused to cheat. Did they not realize that they were doing a temptation angle in the main event as well? You don't need two of these on the show. You just don't need two. So, the match was fine. It was nothing wrong with it. Outside of when they do outside interference in modern wrestling, it takes too long. You don't need to have a whole conversation about this. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, this is the third temptation angle, because Stax and Tony D'Angelo did one on NXT. So, and it stopped the match there too. It's like the match stops while you were offered this guy a weapon. In the old days, he would have offered the weapon, you would have immediately shoved him and pushed him or something and kept the match moving. Now you have to stop. He has to talk loud enough for the cameras to pick it up. You have to theatrically respond to it. And the whole time, everything else is frozen. The referee's not counting them out. Nothing else is happening. And then you end the scene that's in the middle of this fucking match. It's like, okay, look. I've always said that the wrestling matches are sort of the least important part, because the theatrics and the promos and everything is more important. But once the match starts, work the fucking match, okay? This idea that we have to stop to do community theater in the middle of the goddamn match, enough of that. Enough of it. All right? This thing needs to be done faster than this. That being said, I didn't hate this match, but it's not memorable. It's going to be memorable for all of the people who are going to flip their wig that Logan Paul beat AJ Styles, but nobody else is really going to give a shit, because Logan Paul is, sad to say, the future of the business. There's going to be more Logan Pauls in the business in the future. Just highly athletic guys who are slowly but surely going to have to put things together in terms of how to build a match. And AJ Styles led him through the match perfectly fine. So it was a showcase for Logan Paul, and it continues the Karrion Kross AJ Styles story, so it was fine. All right, the Randy Orton Open Challenge is next. And the Open Challenge was responded by Joe Hendry, the TNA World Champion. The building erupted when Joe Hendry's theme song played. Everybody knew all of his gimmicks. When he did the stomp and the clap, they were down with that. You know, they were chanting, "We Believe." They did the arm wave. They did the whole thing. Joe Hendry successfully memed his way into a WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. Nobody is doing it like him. No matter what you say about anybody, Joe Hendry has, I don't know what maybe he rubbed the magic elephant or something like that. He rubbed the genie's lamp, and he's gotten whatever he's wanted. He's manifesting these things. He wanted to be in the Royal Rumble. He got there. He wanted to be at WrestleMania. He got there. And this guy, and the internet absolutely hates him because he's not the best wrestler in the world. He's a meme guy, and they hate memes. That's why they hate Jey Uso. But he's reaching all of his goals. He became TNA World Champion this year. He's been in the Royal Rumble this year, and he wrestled at WrestleMania this year. Amazing. You got to give a guy like that some credit, you know? So he memed himself into a match with Randy Orton. It was interesting. The match was 3 minutes. That's what it was. And Randy Orton took more bumps in those 3 minutes than he took probably in his last 2 or 3 matches total. He took a neck breaker. He took a fall away slam, and I think he took another move too. But Joe Hendry tried to choke slam Randy Orton, and Orton was like, yeah, we ain't going for that, and poked him in the eye. So the big finish comes with Joe Hendry countering one of Randy Orton's moves. I think it was an RKO. He did the overhead sack of shit slam that Scott Hall does. And then he did his pose. He spun around at the hard cam. And while he was smiling, Randy Orton jumped into frame, hit him with an RKO. The world laughed. It was fantastic. 1, 2, 3, he loses. Joe Hendry lost. Of course he lost. Now, Randy Orton is the lineal TNA World Champion, even though the title wasn't on the line. Randy Orton helps Joe Hendry up, applauds him, raises his arm in the air, gives him another RKO, and then steals Joe Hendry's pose by modifying it just slightly for Randy Orton. He got a kick out of that. He had fun with it. Joe Hendry had fun with it. Everybody seemed to just have fun with this thing, except the bitter wrestling fans who were, one, mad that Joe Hendry was even there, and two, mad that the TNA sacrificed their world champion on the WrestleMania stage. Well, I can see it both ways. If you are an old school guy, and you used to read wrestling magazines, you probably don't like the idea of a world champion going from one place to another and losing, because that never happened. Whenever there used to be a WWE champion versus NWA champion or whatever, it would end up being a draw pretty much every time. You almost never saw the world champion of another promotion beat in a different promotion. It never happened that way because it never made sense to do that, because you would hurt your business or you would hurt the partner's business. In this situation, however, nobody really views TNA as competition. So does it really matter that Joe Hendry was beat? No. He was beat because he was emoting. He got too cocky and he lost. That in universe, there's a story reason why he ended up losing. But this keeps happening to TNA, and I do see how people can say, look, they had Roxanne Perez, who was the NXT champion. She beat Jordan Grace, and Jordan Grace was the Knockouts champion at the time. And now Randy Orton, who's not even holding a title, but he's a legend, he beats Joe Hendry in 3 minutes. This makes TNA look bad. I feel you. I do not invalidate your feelings, but fuck that. It was fun. And ultimately, sometimes that's what it boils down to. Joe Hendry wanted the exposure. TNA was willing to give the exposure, and they were willing to have their championship showcased on WrestleMania. The problem with that is, I don't think Joe Hendry did enough to showcase what the kind of action you're missing out on if you're not watching TNA. That's the problem here. Jordan Grace did a lot. When she went in there, she was booked incredibly strong against Roxanne Perez, and she lost due primarily to outside interference. She did enough to make you think she could beat Roxanne Perez if it only wasn't for the outside interference. That was the storyline there. People still got pissy about it. It is what it is. In this situation, there was no outside interference. It was just that Joe Hendry got a little too cocky. He let his guard down, and Randy Orton took advantage of it, and then mocked him and hit him on RKO again. But I see that the platform, you got TNA World Champion locked in with WrestleMania 41 forever. Just like you got the championship for the knockouts locked into the Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias. TNA is getting their champions spotlighted in WWE. It's coming with the cost, and the cost is losing, but it's coming with the cost. WWE probably has to sacrifice somebody over to TNA eventually. I don't know who that would be, AJ Styles, but I don't know who that would be. This partnership is not one-sided, because They're giving TNA exposure at the highest levels. I'm talking Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. It don't get too much bigger than that for WWE. Those are their two biggest events. And they put TNA wrestlers on those platforms. The problem is, I'm not sure the TNA wrestlers did enough. A couple of weeks ago, it came out that Joe Hendry was offered a spot at Scotland, and when Raw was in Scotland, and TNA turned it down. But they let him do this, and then I saw it was just some random account, so take it or leave it. But it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy that was supposed to take Joe Hendry's spot on this show, and that would have been infinitely better if it had been Jeff Hardy. I'd have been pumped for that, and nobody would have cried or cared either. They'd have been just, hey, this is going to be Jeff Hardy's last match in WWF, and he goes out there, has a singles match with Randy. They go about 4 or 5 minutes, RKO, call it a day. For me, I was kind of thumbs in the middle when it comes to Joe Hendry. It's not that I hated it, it's that I admired that he manifested that, to borrow female language. He manifested this for himself. And I was more impressed by that than disappointed or upset. Yes, it probably would have been better. And I think most of us got our hopes up that it would be like a Rusev or an Aleister Black or somebody like that would come in and work with Randy. Some people even thought it might be Goldberg, where he'd get his final match in or something like that. And that all would have been very nice. And it would have been infinitely better, but it would have mean Randy would have had a full match. It also means that Triple H would have had to throw away whatever creative ideas he had for Rusev and Aleister Black to do this. And he wasn't going to sacrifice his own creative ideas for it, so he brought in a ringer. Hey, bring in this guy. Nobody cares whether he wins or loses. And it wasn't Solo Sikoa, which is great. I'm glad it wasn't Solo. I was hoping that it would either be somebody from NXT. It would have been great if it had been Trick Williams or something like that. I still wouldn't have been a big fan of Trick Williams losing in like 3 or 4 minutes, though. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But if it would have been like Obafemi or something like that, I would have been like, damn, that'd have been amazing. But I would have been pissed off because they were gonna lose. Joe Hendry didn't care that he lost. Am I a fan of the TNA product? To a degree, but I'm not a TNA lifer, so I wouldn't have lost any sleep about Joe Hendry being pinned by Randy Orton. And I really hope nobody does. Take the path of least resistance and recognize that TNA just got their world champion at WrestleMania, which is something that would not have happened 3 or 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, certainly would not have happened. And this thing, despite the fact that people are complaining about it, it's tending to work as the houses for TNA is going up, despite the fact that their talent is getting beat on WWE TV, which I don't necessarily think is a good idea, but hey, what do I know? All right, the Intercontinental Championship. Dominic Mysterio wins the title, defeating Finn Balor, Penta, and Braun Breaker. This was an absolutely excellent contest. This is a rival for match of the night. Probably the second best match of the night, if we're being honest. Dominic Mysterio was wearing a mask. It was the mask of his great uncle, Rey Mysterio Sr. He couldn't get it off his head. He was trapped in the mask temporarily, which made it even funnier. And sometimes when you're a heel, being incompetent makes you more charming. So that worked out for him. Finn Balor was a banana in pajamas, which is hilarious. I don't understand it. But no special interests for anybody, really. The match itself was fast-paced. It was intense. Braun Breaker was hitting anything and moving. It was very good. Braun Breaker grabbed a suplex on Penta, who had Finn Balor in a position for a Penta driver. Great spot. Finn Balor caught Dominic Mysterio trying to use a 619 on him and then stomped him, which was great because Dominic Mysterio was being sneaky behind Finn Balor's back. Carlito showed up. Of course, he was interfering in the match. Braun Breaker then spears Carlito, who was standing on the desk. I don't remember what he was standing on the desk for. I think he was attacking somebody. He jumped from one desk to another and speared Carlito into that desk. That was crazy. The big finish comes from Finn Balor hitting a coup de grace on, I believe it was Braun Breaker or Penta. And while he was flopping on the ground, Dominic Mysterio nailed Finn Balor with a frog splash and pinned him. The building exploded. The entire time he was out there, the crowd was 100% behind Dominic Mysterio. They wanted him to win. They cared about everybody else. They thought the match was great, but Dominic Mysterio was what they wanted. And they were smart people. Dominic Mysterio deserved this championship. He's been one of the most over guys for the last 2 or 3 years. He's been excellent in his role. He knows what the hell he's doing. He's fantastic. Him being the Intercontinental Champion is absolutely the right move. Dominic, he still being in character. He was a sneaky heel. He pinned Finn, who was his friend, and he ran off. And then for some reason, he was like, wait a second. And he turned around and came back. He had to run past Finn Balor to get back in the ring and celebrate with the title. And the crowd loved it. They ate it up. It was tremendous. This was the right move. Now, you've opened up Braun Breaker to move up to the next level. Or he can stay in this position if that's what you want to do. I don't know. Finn Balor is now going to feud with Dominic. Penta is still in the conversation. Hilariously, Penta did an interview where he called Dominic a fake Mexican, which I laughed at because he didn't elaborate. He just said he was a fake Mexican, which I don't know what that means. I guess it's because he was born in the United States. But that means Ray was born in the United States. Anyway, Dominic Mysterio becoming the champion was the smart move, and this match was great. This was a big match. It felt good. Sin City Street Fight, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Drew McIntyre won the match with the Claymore into a chair. Interesting finish there. Actually, pretty good finish, too. Pretty brutal. Drew McIntyre's entrance featured what they said it was Doom. Now, in my notes, I wrote, Drew McIntyre is standing there with some kind of golem. Because I didn't know what the hell that thing was. And I was looking at it and I was like, is that Kamen Rider? Like, what is that? And then I was trying to venture, I guess, and I see people online saying that, Drew McIntyre is dressed like Suburban Commando Hulk Hogan, which is absolutely true. He was. And I was like, certainly he's not doing Suburban Commando cosplay. There has to be something better than that. And it turns out that it was for a Doom video game. And the Doom, the franchise that began back when I was a child. And I'm not talking about a teenager. I played Doom on computers in computer class, back when there used to be a computer class. I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade playing Doom. I didn't know they still made those games. Oh my God, I'm old. Shit. I knew they made the movie, but I didn't know they still made Doom games. Have mercy. You talk about something that was quite possibly 1991 or 1990 or something like that. Would have been like 6 or 7. Like, this is insane that these franchises could last so long. And I don't even know. But I thought they made the movies based off the old games. But they must have made the movies off of games I never saw. And the movie was not good. The Rock, sheesh. But they had Drew McIntyre cosplay Doom for a video game. And now it clicks in my head that they probably told him to dress like that. And so the Viking Raiders or the War Raiders or the Turkey Leg guys from the previous night, they were probably told to dress like that too then. It's probably the company coming to them with a costume saying, Drew, I need you to put this monkey suit on. Like, what do you mean? I gotta dress like this. I don't even play video games. Sure you do. I need you to wear this silly suit. I guess so. I guess I'll wear this thing. It's better than wearing a dress, I guess. He wears that. Damian Priest got a guitarist from Slayer to play his theme, or to play along with his theme. It started out all right, and then it kind of veered off. Again, live music it ain't the best. I don't know what's happening, but live bands at WrestleMania really is not really working out. The only thing that really happened in this match was that Drew McIntyre took a selfie mid-match, said that he was still bored at work, which was pretty funny. But it was a typical street fight. They fought all over, and there was chairs and various weapons. The big finish comes with Damian Priest trying to steal Old School from The Undertaker, and Drew McIntyre just simply pushed him over. And Damian Priest, mid-air, put his hands behind his head to protect his neck and crashed through 2 tables. And that was sort of the end for him. As he was climbing into the ring, he put his head near a chair, and Drew McIntyre kicked his head, Claymore style, into the chair and pinned him 1, 2, 3. A fairly solid heavyweight contest. They laid into each other. It probably could have been a little bit more intense. That would have required less building, would have required some blood, but it wasn't bad. I think they did a good job. Having Drew McIntyre win the match, probably the best option to try to move Damian Priest on, I guess, or move Drew up, whatever they're deciding to do. But I don't think this thing is over. I don't think it's over. They're probably going to have one more match in them. All right, so the first match was the best match of the night and probably the best match of the entire weekend. Io Sky defeats Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair in a triple threat match for the ages. This one was fantastic. It was better than the men's triple threat match. It was absolutely fantastic. Great pacing, great storytelling, really good shit here. Bianca Belair got a special entrance with young ladies playing double dutch. Okay. And her stepdaughter was there. She gave her stepdaughter a hug. Her stepdaughter looked to be about 12 or 13 or something like that, which is like, how old is Montez Ford? Like, I know Bianca Belair is 36. Maybe he's around the same age. Jesus Christ. Sometimes they look so young that you don't even consider how old they might be. Or maybe it's just that, they had kids at appropriate ages. She doesn't have any, but these are Tiz's kids. Maybe, he had a child at a very appropriate age, and now that appropriate age is that his daughter is a teenager now. But she was a pretty tall girl, too. I was like, oh my goodness. Bianca was playing into the booze. So they essentially just turned her heel in the middle of the match. She's shoving Rhea Ripley by the face, smacking her, saying that she works harder than her. And, oh boy. So they did that. So we got to deal with that shit now, and I'm not a fan of it. Anyway, they did all kinds of stuff to each other. I'll be here all day going through the moves. But Io Sky is a truly phenomenal professional wrestler. Like, she truly is one of the best in the world. A lot of wrestling fans, they really hate Vince because they knew that he didn't want anything to do with Io because she was so tiny. And he was going to let her leave. And they were like, oh, Vince was going to let Io leave. And I'm like, NXT is filled with girls who are not 5'1", But Io is truly phenomenal. She is probably the female Rey Mysterio. And I feel very comfortable saying that. It would have been a mistake to let her go. It's not worth what we're dealing with in terms of other people. But it would have been a goddamn shame for her to go back to working in Japan, or for her to be slumming it in Ring of Honor or something like that. This is the stage she should be on. She did a fantastic job. She was hanging in there with Bianca and Rhea and felt like an equal partner into the match. I agree with Kevin Nash in so much that sometimes her offense doesn't look believable, but that's because she's so goddamn small. It's similar to Rey Mysterio, but she's not going to bulk up on roids. She's so tiny that things like her palm strikes and stuff like that don't look like they hurt. Like, especially somebody the size of Rhea Ripley, who's an Amazon. I don't think that a strike from Io Sky can really hurt her. But everything else she does, especially from an aerial perspective, like how fast she is, her counters, how technically proficient she is, her ability to like counter things into like hurricanranas and victory rolls is absolutely tremendous. Next level shit, and actually keeps her in the conversation. The spot of the match was no doubt Io Sky hitting a springboard dropkick to Rhea Ripley, and as she's busting out the emote, Bianca Belair hits her with a pounce that just knocked her socks off. It was an absolutely fantastic spot. They did a lot of triple spots in here. I don't want to go through the entire match, but Rhea Ripley actually picked up Io Sky and lawn darted her into Bianca via Razor's Edge, which was crazy. A really cool near fall comes from Rhea Ripley countering the over the moonsault by putting her feet up, and that basically just kicked Io over. Io was then picked up, hit with the KOD 1-2, then Rhea Ripley broke up the count. That was a good spot there as well. The finish sequence is probably one of the best ever. Rhea Ripley is on the top rope and she's facing the ring post. Io Sky climbs up. She's going to do a poison rana, which means she's going to flip Rhea Ripley from the ring post into the ring onto her own stomach. Except Rhea Ripley grabbed her ankles and kind of slingshotted her forward so that Io Sky's head hit the ring post. And so she was out. At that point, Rhea Ripley is about to do something to Io Sky when she's snatched off the second rope by Bianca Belair, hit with the KOD. 1-2. Then Io does a moonsault off the top rope onto Bianca, crushed her, and pinned her 1-2-3. Io Sky wins the match. Bianca Belair loses her first match at WrestleMania. And I knew that was going to happen because Triple H doesn't care about these things. So, look, I got to tell you, it was one hell of a contest. The whole point of the story going into this match was that Io was being overlooked by the two Amazon girls. And overlooked no longer. So, there's that. I got to say, my fandom for Bianca Belair just does not cease. She is tremendous. Rhea Ripley gets the biggest reactions in the company next to, Dominic Mysterio and some other people. Like, she gets like monster reactions. But Bianca Belair is probably one of the top female wrestlers in the world. She don't miss. And Rhea Ripley don't miss. These were three of the best female wrestlers in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. And they were very professional, unlike the broads in the match on the night one, who were, either too inexperienced or too egotistical. These women went out there and did their part, made each other look good, and scored. So the first half of WrestleMania Night 2 was tremendous. The triple threat match is the best match of the weekend. The Sin City Street Fight is solid. The Intercontinental Championship match was the second best match of the weekend, or probably the third, depending on where you put that other triple threat match from night one. Interesting surprise with Becky Lynch. Fun stuff there. Crowd was very happy with that. Crowd was okay with Joe Hendry. They were into that. John Cena winning the title. People loved that idea, even though they hated the finish. Most people just didn't care. Now that John Cena has the belt, it doesn't really matter that much. So overall, I give the show a positive grade. I give it a pass, even though I will say the bad feeling in my stomach over the main event wasn't enough to overcome the positive feelings of the triple threat match and the fatal four-way match. And the multi-man matches basically saving the pay-per-view is weird because those are the matches I didn't want. So I have to eat a little bit of crow, but I can say those matches would have been infinitely better if they'd have just been, Io versus Bianca or Io versus Ripley or Rhea Ripley versus Bianca. It would have been just as goddamn good, in my opinion. Just like I think the triple threat match would have been just as good if it had been Roman and Punk, or Punk and Seth, or Seth and Roman. It'd have been just as good. I think that the fatal four-way element just means that all of these people who work well together are going to continue to work well together. And also, these matches became finisher fests. That's one thing I didn't care for, but that's becoming a big thing for WrestleMania anyway. Is every match is a finisher fest? How many times could you hit your finisher? I think John Cena used his finisher 4 or 5 times. It's way too many. Way too many. Overall, I give the show a passing grade. All right, let's talk about some of the accoutrements. Like Stephanie McMahon, she opened the show, says that last time WWE was in Las Vegas, she was 16 years old. It was WrestleMania 9. Now her daughter is 6. She has a daughter that's 16 years old. She said that we are part of her family, and WWE is a family. Welcomed us to WrestleMania. And I was like, if I'm a member of the family, can I get some of that money? Like, I know everybody's like, I don't want to be a member of that family. Vince is a pedophile and he's a rapist. I'm like, shit, fuck all that. If I want some of the money that comes with being a McMahon, shit, let's get real here. Can I get some stocks? Can I get some Class B? You know, like, what's happening here? No, I mean, this is what the McMahons have been doing. It feels less genuine than even before. Before, WWE was owned by the McMahons, and it was a family company that was started by Vince's dad. So yes, it felt like a family business. But now TKO is making guys wear logo patches on their uniforms and making guys dress up like video games for their entrances. This shit is not a family business. I don't like that Stephanie was brought out to say all that shit. It's dumb, all right? This is no family. This is no family business. This is the most corporate shit in the world right now. I said it yesterday and I meant it. WWE has lost its magic. It doesn't have the magic that it used to have. It's not a family business anymore. One of the reasons why it's lost its magic is because they're overexposing everything. They announced on this show that there's going to be another Netflix TV show called WWE Unreal, where you're going to go inside of the writer's room. There is no sacred spaces anymore. Now we're going to have cameras fucking everywhere. What next? We're going to have WWE gardening, where we got to follow around the guy who trims the hedges. Why do we need to be in the writer's room? Like, I don't get it. Why do we have to be in production meetings? We don't need to see all this stuff. And it's because Nick Khan and all those bozos over in TKO, they don't have a reverence for anything. It's one thing to do backstage documentaries. It's another thing to do in-depth conversations with individual talent where they reveal their real names and all that stuff. That's one thing. When you're fucking with the people in the suits, you're going too far. I don't need to see inside the marketing department. I don't need to see inside the writer's room. I don't need to see any of that stuff. It's too much. It's too inside baseball. Leave some integrity for the business. Some integrity. There needs to be some kind of sacred space. We don't need to see who the bozos are that are writing the show. All right? There's a revolving door of idiots anyway. These people come and go. We don't need to see this. I hate this idea. I'm gonna be forced to watch at least one episode of it just to see what it is. But I don't want to see this. You know? It's like the company now is starting to co-opt you, where at first they were saying, no, you can't see any of this stuff. We don't want you to know who's writing the shows. None of that matters. Kayfabe, brother, kayfabe. And then the smart marks decided they wanted to know everything. They wanted to know who the producers were, who the writers were, who came up with this idea. And then the writers were coming out and doing podcasts, and they were talking about every fucking thing. And now the company won't let you go. They won't let you walk away from unless you know exactly who is responsible for what. You might as well do a goddamn running, screen, like a television show. Who wrote what storyline? You must have just put it all on the fucking screen at this point. I mean, this is ridiculous. Enough's enough. All right. There's only one more thing. Well, two more things that need to be addressed. One, Jey Uso was extremely drunk after he won the championship on night one of WrestleMania. He was speaking like he was underwater at this press conference. Absolute gibberish. Somebody needs to get this guy and have a conversation with him. And it needs to happen very, very soon. Because, look, I get it, as long as he's not driving, but you do realize that if he has an alcohol problem, that's 24/7. And it affects his ability to work, and it affects his ability to think, to cut promos, to do everything. You might want to, even if he's not drinking at work, you probably still need to pay attention to him. Because that whole him speaking nonsense shit, that means he was sloshed, right? That means he was down bad. That's probably not a good idea. To encourage him to be drunk and yeeting, it's just probably not a good idea. But then again, I mean, it's a bad deal anyway, because kids are going to be watching this. Look, no kids are going to stay up to watch it. But who knows if they're going to be scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through Instagram the next morning and say, oh, Jey Uso did a sit-down interview. Let me see his first interview as a world champion. And he's like, like, that's terrible. It's really terrible PR for the kid's hero. The guy Triple H is telling us he's selling all this merchandise or whatever. It's a bad do for him to be drunk in interviews. It's not good. It's unprofessional. And it sends the wrong message to the kids. All right. Now, one last thing to talk about. What did I have for WrestleMania? What did I eat? Well, night one, I had tacos. And they were hard shell tacos. Pretty solid. A little sour cream. Also had some nachos. And I made some cheese sauce. I made the cheese sauce. Just cut up some cheese and melted it in some milk in an emulsifier. Some milk, and just basically stir it until it's smooth. It's pretty good, man. It's better than, if you got cheese, it's better than actually going out and spending like $4 for cheese. But it was like tacos and nachos combination for night one. Pretty solid. Night two, my mom made Easter food. So it was basically like a Thanksgiving almost spread. So it was like turkey and dressing and black eyed peas and a little of everything. And since all that stuff was made with turkey, I was able to eat quite a bit of it. So I ate it, but I wasn't sleepy. Like, I didn't get knocked out for like the show or anything. But that's pretty much what I had for dinner for night one and night two. What about you guys? What did you guys have on the menu for night one and night two? Let me know in the comment section below. Did you enjoy WrestleMania? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and if you can, please donate to the show. I would appreciate that very much. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out and happy Easter.